How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Wisconsin Badgers versus Hawkeyes preview for the Cream City Cast. I'm the host, Dylan Piccolo, joined with Scotty Sports Talks at The Real Nixon. Nick, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, Dylan. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Baker Mayfield just came in the game, so it's a nice little time break to do a little Badger talk. So I've officially put to bed the Badgers' loss against BYU. I've tried to do logic spells and everything that I can, but I can't take it back. We're 2-1, and we have a very tough opponent ahead of us. A really tough place to play, and I hear that you will be in the house in Iowa that night as well.
I will be. I'll be covering the game up in the press box. I'm very excited. First road game I've covered, and it's a great place at Kinnick Stadium.
Well, what are you looking for the Badgers to do that they didn't do last Saturday? I mean, I know there's a lot that we wish we could change, but in a tough environment in Big Ten football, what do you want to see from the Badgers?
So other than just being more ready and sharp overall as a team, which I definitely think they will be, I think they've got to be more successful at just pounding that rock with guys like Jonathan Taylor, Taiwan Deal, even Garrett Groshek, just literally running it as much as they can to get those positive yards and just wear out that Hawkeyes defense, especially the front seven, because Jonathan Taylor, even though he struggled a bit last game for his sake and as good as he is, he should be able to rush for 150-plus, touchdown or two against these Hawkeyes. And when he's rolling, the Badgers are rolling. That opens up the passing game a little bit for Hornibrook. So I think they just got to be smart about it, but make sure they stick to their strength and run Jonathan Taylor as much as possible.
Yeah, and kind of backing up of what you said, I really need to see the front line take care of business, and that's on the offense and defensive side of the ball. The offensive line just looked like they got outworked. I don't think that they were outmanned, but I think the effort wasn't really there, and it showed because there really wasn't any break plays. Badgers were really consistent on keeping that good initial block, but they didn't really hold it very long for Jonathan Taylor to cut back upfield and use his vision. And likewise on the defensive end, I think that Nate Stanley is a good quarterback. He's from Wisconsin. I believe I think he's a junior now, senior?
Yep.
Junior. He's a junior, so he has experience with the Iowa team. But this is pretty much going to be his first super big game other than Ohio State last year, but Ohio State games really took care of business for him. So I want the Badgers to get off to an early lead and definitely put the pressure on Stanley to see if he can. But I think it's going to be a big test for our secondary in Iowa. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on – because he didn't look that great against BYU.
Yeah, I agree that the secondary's got to step up, especially just kind of sticking to their guys, their reads, making the right calls, and just staying home, because that was a big problem, especially on like the double pass trick play against BYU. But I think you're right. I think it all starts up front, and if that line can get more than literally like 1 or 2 sacks a game and actually force some pressure on Stanley, who is a pretty good quarterback. He put up some nice numbers last year. I would say is one of the probably top half quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I really like him. It's going to be tough at home. Obviously, the Hawkeyes at home. I like the Badgers secondary. I think that they're talented, but they can't stay on like coverage and actually stay on their guys for more than 4 to 5 seconds consistently. So if the Badgers can get that pass rush, that would be huge. And yeah, there were a few holes for Taylor against BYU, but none big enough for like the big plays, like you said. And there were only 3 or 4 anyway. So I think down low, up front, I think that's really where it's going to come into play for the Badgers.
And kind of an unknown, not an unknown, but kind of less talked about storyline in this is the kind of the major battle that can be had in this game. You look at a lot of guys on Iowa, and especially in their skill positions. I know with their back Young, and of course, they have a couple Wisconsin guys here, and Iowa does recruit the state of Wisconsin well. So that's probably hanging around in the back of Paul's mind, because I think the Badgers narrowly escaped them last year. So they really got to go in there, and I think this is a statement game for Wisconsin because and we talked about this in our last podcast. They have not played like a top 25 team yet this entire season. No. And I think that's got to change. And, what do they I think we're trying to find schematically what's going on with the Badgers, but I feel like they're just coasting into games. These first three, they've just coasted into them. And obviously when you're the numbers, 4, 5, 6 ranked team in the country as they've been, you're gonna have that against some of the mid-major schools. But I hope BYU woke up a sleeping giant here, because if they're not ready to, they could go down for the second week in a row.
Dude, I totally agree with all that. I think that they especially did that throughout the whole game against BYU, because I think they did in the first half and like the first couple games, but then, kind of woke up, got things going. And yeah, it's a statement game for them, but also for the Hawkeyes to show that they really can match up and do well against these top teams in the Big Ten, especially in like a ground and pound type of game that is kind of known in Big Ten football. I think I saw that Iowa night games are like 12-5 at Kinnick, which is obviously a really good record, beating some top teams like Penn State there a couple years ago with Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley. And I feel like another big thing that the Badgers are going to have to do, speaking on like the secondary, is also really watch out for Noah Fant, who is one of the most talented deep threats, tight ends, whatever you want to call him, in the country. And if the secondary doesn't come to play for that, Badgers will get torched, because he is talented. Like you said, they got Young out of the backfield, and these Wisconsin guys that do play for the Hawkeyes, they'll come ready to play for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's definitely rivalry. I mean, you can put it however you want, but it's a game that you got to come ready for. The other team's going to smack you in the mouth. And, and when we were talking about winning the battle up front, I think that's a very big part, is that the defensive line gets pressure on Stanley, because you can help your secondary out in so many ways by doing that. And I know Van Ginkel has a game-time decision. He's traveling. Him and Xander Newville will be traveling, game-time decisions. So, obviously, if Van Ginkel could play in any role, that would help up front. But you got to help out that young secondary. I think that's, even if you look at New Mexico, I think New Mexico did a good job against our secondary, kind of gave them some fits, especially early on that very first drive game that they had. So now you're playing against the big boys, so it's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree. The secondary has kind of gone down in their performances since the first game. They were really tough and kind of locked down against Western Kentucky. They were graded very well with Pro Football Focus. They didn't give up a lot of those long gains, obviously not as many points. And I feel like I actually somewhat kind of trust the nickel coverage more than the base coverage, just because they have more of those athletes out there in the secondary, and that's giving a little more responsibility to them and less to the guys up front. I mean, Sagapolu, who I've obviously written about, I think he's kind of done his thing leading those guys up front. He had his first sack last game. But the youngsters on the edge, Caden Lyles, Matt Henningsen, even Isaiah Loudermilk, they have not had all this experience playing behind, guys that were all Big Ten, some of them NFL last year. And they've really got to prove their worth. I feel like they will. I feel like Chris will have them ready. And I just think the leadership from guys like Olive, TJ Edwards, Dakota Dixon. I think that's going to shine through this week, especially based on some of what they told me about, so much being left to accomplish this year. It all starts this week, one game at a time. But it's going to be a huge test, man, and I'm excited to be there for sure.
Moving towards the offensive side of the ball, there's no question that this team struggles to score points against stout defense. We can carry that back to last season as well. How important do you think it is that the Badgers get off to early in the game?
Oh, I think it's incredibly important. I think other than creating a pass rush, that's probably the most important thing they need to do. Because especially against a talented team like Iowa on the road at night, Badgers cannot fall behind. They're not the type of team. They don't have the type of offense, game plan, or even really the quarterback, honestly, to be able to come from behind that quickly, score. We talked, it was a little surprising that they even gave the Badgers the chance to get that field goal at the end of the BYU game, because they just aren't known for moving the ball quickly unless it's off like a 25, 30-yard Taylor run or a rare fullback dive left where the field is just wide open. So I think that is incredibly important. I think that they've got to stick to their game plan. I think that they need to implore some more of those jet sweeps, actually, that BYU used, because Kendrick Pryor's got speed. He's not always going to get open when he's actually running routes. But if we could use him for that, open up the passing game for guys like A.J. Taylor, Danny Davis, who needs to be used more. He's got to catch the ball. I think that would definitely be beneficial for the Badgers to start off the game.
And I think that it's important that if it's a first half turnover, I think that they can recover from that, but they cannot turn the ball over. The will swing so quickly in Iowa, and it's just you just see it's just visibly you see him kind of take a step back whenever they have a turnover, and obviously you're going to take a step back, but mentally it's just really frustrating to see driving and they're going well. There's always that thought in the back of your mind, oh, all right, well, is Taylor going to fumble it? Is Hornibrook going to throw it in the air somewhere to a Badgers receiver? I mean, ball security, and I think playing your game is the biggest part of the offensive game plan. Yeah. And I think that if they do work that offensive game plan, I think Hornibrook will have opportunities to hit Ferguson, Danny Davis in the middle of the field off of nice play actions. I think that will be there because I know that I was probably going to start selling out on him by the second or third quarter, and Hornibrook's going to have to make those throws. Comes down to it, he's going to have to make those throws at some point during the season, and frankly, we just haven't seen it quite yet.
I agree, and the thing is, he should be able to make those throws. This is his third year starting in a top tier program, so by no means do I think they should abandon the pass game. I think they need to continue to use it. I think that it'll obviously get them yards. I think that it keeps the defense honest. I'm just saying they also need to stay true to that run game, because if that's not working, they're not going to score and move the ball against these uber talented Hawkeyes.
What would you say is one thing of concern that Badgers fans should have when going against Iowa? That could be on the offense or the defensive side of the ball.
Honestly, I think it's being able to defend and stop the Hawkeyes' offense. Like I said, I'm really high on Stanley. The Hawkeyes have a nice two-man backfield, especially with Torin Young, local, Madison, Wisconsin product. And then Fant on the outside. It's basically just being able to take care and cover all those weapons, because they haven't had to face a team like that yet this season. As well as the offense played for BYU, they're not quite as talented as Iowa. I think Ferentz is going to have the Hawkeyes ready. I think that these guys are awfully focused, like you said, maybe wanting to prove something against this Wisconsin team, especially those guys coming from the state of Wisconsin. It's a huge game. It's at Kinnick. It's a night game. Kickoff to the Big Ten season. this Badgers team that was supposed to make the playoffs. So I think probably keeping the Hawkeyes' weapons in check and being able to balance the pass rush with the secondary coverage, that would probably be the biggest concern in my eyes. What about you?
I would agree. I would also just, be a little concerned about the offensive line of Wisconsin's. I think that we're kind of starting to see I know they're very experienced up front, but a little bit of lack of cohesiveness. There's been a couple injuries to start the season that have kind of slowed some things down. And obviously, when you struggle as you did against the BYU, there's always concerns. So I just want to see right away out of the gate Wisconsin be able to maintain that Iowa pass rush in the front seven. And I want to be able to run the ball up the middle because that's going to be a staple of their offense. The Badgers aren't going to change that. They're going to stretch it out and then they're going to hit it in the middle. They're going to do a combination of those and they're going to see what they can get. So getting that initial push up front is going to be the biggest thing. There was one thing I know to predictions and talk about why we got our predictions, but based off the new NCAA rule, all players have 4 games before they're declaring for a red shirt. Declare as a red shirt. Is there any notable names that you've heard that might be in that category?
Not that I have heard absolutely for sure. There has definitely been talk of a few, pretty well-known guys, especially on offense, to get back. A couple on defense, but I've heard that it's definitely highly thought of and positive for this Badgers program, but none for sure yet. No.
Because one guy that I was really high on in the beginning of the year was Aaron Cruikshank, and I've noticed that he's been, limited to the kickoff returns where he hasn't really made a flash on. And I know he's a smaller guy. So I was just curious if you had heard anything in regards to him, because I thought in the beginning of the year when Danny Davis and obviously Quintez Cephas were suspended, they might give him some opportunity to get the ball in open space. But instead they went with Jack Dunn and the other walk-on. I just was curious about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think Cruikshank will be one of those guys, just because he's also been pretty strong and fast in the kick return game. And I don't think guys like Dunn and the other walk-on you were thinking of, Krumholz, are going to be that reliable. Yeah. But, yeah, it's definitely an interesting rule, and we'll have to see how the Badgers use it after this week.
All right, time to get down to the meat and potatoes of it. Prediction time. First, since you're going to be there, so I want people to have the last thoughts be with the man who's there himself, so if they lose or whatever, they can blame you. But I am going to say that the Badgers will fall to Iowa 20-17. I think that the Badgers' problem up front is a little more concerning. I think that a lot of things can happen over the course of a night game, especially in the Big Ten. I think I will be extremely ready to play. And, quite frankly, I just Alex Hornibrook to make the winning plays when we're behind. And I think that, depending on who gets the ball first and all that jazz, I think that Iowa will probably score first. The Badgers will have some pop plays, and I hope that, they can come back and win. But I don't personally have the confidence in Alex Hornibrook to make the throws.
Well, Mr. Host, Dylan, I appreciate that. I see where you're coming from, and I like that you were honest. If these fans are mad, I guess it will be with me if I disappoint them then, because I've got the Badgers getting it together, going into Iowa. I think the line is going to play like the multiple All-American line that they have. I think the defensive line is going to come together a little bit. I think the Badgers are going to have to go deeper into their linebacking core and even their secondary, but I think the talent's going to shine through. I think the leadership will come up big. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, as is a lot of Big Ten. I've got a similar score to yours, but I've got the Badgers going into Kinnick and coming out with the W, 24-17.
All right, we're in the same ballpark. Honestly, like it's what it comes down to. You think the Badgers will have that possession, and then I think I'll have that possession. So
exactly,
it can happen either way. And I really hope you're right. I really hope you're right, because I don't know if those Iowa fans get down. Not as much as they do in Madison, of course, but I heard Iowa knows how to party, and I'm sure if they take down Wisconsin, it'll be a party. So
it'll be nuts, man.
It'll be a good time.
I wish you were coming down with me.
I know, dude. It sounds like a good time. The wave will be cool. The hospital.
That's gonna be pretty sweet.
You'll have to put a video up for the social that night for that.
You bet.
All right. Well, now that our names are on the line, and now everyone will know that I'm secretly an Iowa fan. Just kidding.
He doesn't believe in the Badgers, guys.
No, I know. I mean, Al's not here, though, so Bears, big win, though. Let's go.
Defense looks amazing, man. That was awesome. Hope it should continue this Sunday.
Yep, this will be our weekly 30-second Bears talk, just because I don't do a Bears podcast with anyone, so this is my type of thing. So, Khalil Mack's a guy.
Not yet, you don't. We'll have to start one, man. Saying it right now.
Ooh. We're getting any listeners from the Cream City Cast audience, but we will have to find some other ones. All right. Well, don't thank at the real Nick Osen. Find him on Twitter and Scotty Sports Talk. I'm sure he'll have a lot of great coverage from Iowa on Saturday night on Fox on national TV. Number 18 Wisconsin versus the unranked Iowa Hawkeyes. My name's Dylan Piccolo at DP_hoops. Check out all the Cream City Central stuff at creamcitycentral.com. You can hit it up on the social media at Cream City Central. Just throw it under your search and you'll find it right away. So thank you. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Badgers win, but we'll have to wait and see. So we'll talk to you next week with the post-game reactions. Thanks.